Okay, so this video will be a series of videos that will follow, that will touch on points to help beginners who are looking to emulate or make music similar to their favorite artists. This is not my intention of saying you should copy an artist. You should not. In fact, you should learn to create your own little variances or variations, I should say, of styles. Now, I'm using my own personal music from an album I did called Two Sides to Every Story, which you can buy on Bandcamp if you want. To support, I have 3 albums out: The Multiverse, as well as The Mellow Kid, which is the most recent. And so, if you want to go there and support, I think all of the albums are around $5 or less, or you could donate what you want. I tried to keep it as close to free without it being free, because you got to pay a little something to support it, if you want. But you can listen, I believe, to it on there for free. So anyway, this is a song called "The Story and the Poet." One of my favorite songs that I did on that album. Um, and so I wanted to use it just as an example of some way you can start learning. So we're going to talk about a few points that you can do as we go. You'll see I don't script anything. So this is just off the top, but I do have my ideas in my head as far as where you want to start. So the first thing you need to do is find out a tempo, right? Anytime you like a song, there is a tempo to that song. Sometimes if you go get some song that's really different, not your typical 4/4 type song. In other words, the time signature is different. Like, see here how I have 4/4 time signature. Um, that would require a little more effort. So you might use a different app that specializes in finding out what that time signature is. There's a few ways to get the BPM. One is you could tap to the beat of it, and usually you can get pretty close. Ableton, if you turn the warp off, usually can detect and does a really good job at getting close. So this is detecting this BPM. Excuse me, my voice is cracking, but part of it is because I'm have some sinus issues. Okay, so it detects it at 86 BPM. Now, if you're on the iPad, there is a few apps that can do it. See, there we go again. A few apps that can do it. One in particular that comes to my mind that I use a lot. Now, this is a paid subscription. They just did a new one a new one. I can't remember what the other one is, but Chord AI is probably the best, in my opinion, on iOS. If you're on desktop, if you have Serato sampler, really good at detecting keys as well as BPM. And Serato sampler can do split stems. So that's kind of really my go-to that I like the most. But I'm going to show you a few different things that you can do. I have Logic open, by the way, which we will use for splitting stems. And this applies to the iPad also. So if you're on the iPad, you can split stems there too. We'll talk about that in just a second here. Um, so step one, figure out what the BPM is. Now these are elementary steps to you. To many, if they've been doing music for a while, they realize every song just about has some BPM, or some of them have multiple BPMs or changes, especially in like trap music and things of that nature, where they may use let's say 140 as a BPM, but they play in halftime. So in other words, they're playing around 70, because it's where they're placing the snares, right, and the kicks and the snares on there. All right, that's a whole nother ball game. So find your BPM. There's too many apps out now that can do it for you. Chord AI will give you the give you the BPM, the key of the song, which is my next step, as well as the chords. So the key of the song is imperative to know. especially if you're going to play in that same key. You don't have to, but typically you want to if you're trying to emulate the person. So you're going to need some apps that determine the key. You can't just click and determine the key. You need to have something that analyzes the audio to figure that out. So step one, get the BPM. Step two, you need to know what key you're playing, the artist is playing in. It's not hard to find these days. We have so many apps that can tell you. You can even use Scalar, in case you don't know this. So Scalar 2, it's not the best. I'm going to upfront tell you that. It does have a detect, and you can drop audio in. So if you see right here, it says audio or open audio file. So if you click audio and then you just drag it in, it'll say this will replace. You can say yes. And it analyzes what it thinks the chords are for this. So if I had something in here connected, you would see the chords going, playing with it. So here's the chords it's saying that I played. I can tell you now, some of these chords may be right, but I didn't play a lot of this. I'm pretty sure I didn't play that. So, and I can't say I played all these chords on this song. I would have to go back and pull that song up where I made it. But you can see, you can get an idea of what it is. Again, this does not detect the BPM. So you need that BPM, and you're going to need some chords. Everything I personally play, and a lot of people that are musicians will play, will generally have a human feel on it. So you want to take that into account. Now, let's say you love the drums in this song, but you want something else in the other song. Okay, so I've showed this to you the other day. Now, all DAWs are not created equal. Unfortunately, that's just not the way they are. They all have different features that are good and different features that are bad, and features that you like and features that you don't like. That's just the way they all are. Even Ableton, doesn't matter which DAW you use, they're going to have different things. One of the best features, though, is the harmony to MIDI feature, the melody to MIDI feature, and the drums to MIDI. That's really helpful if you want to create somebody else's style, if you want to emulate their style. Now, Chord AI on iOS, which is on the iPhone and on the iPad, does give you the chords, and it shows you how to play them on guitar and or on piano. And generally, you can export, if I'm not mistaken. I think they added that recently. I'll have to double check that. It's been a while since I've been using it for that. But I think you can export the chords out. If it's not on this one, it's on another one called Chordy or something like that. But any of those apps that can export the MIDI out or get you the MIDI is going to help. Now, if you're going to do the MIDI to drums, my first suggestion is try to isolate the drums by themselves. That's where stem splitting comes into play. And we're going to move over to here, which is Logic. Now, if you're on the iPad and you have Logic, I would say use it. It's probably going to be the best, not probably, it is the best DAW on iOS, period. Now, is it the best for creating music? Maybe. Depends on the person, right? Some people love Beatmaker 3, and I wouldn't doubt that Beatmaker 3 is amazing because I've used it myself quite a bit. But there's some things in Beatmaker 3 that aren't up to par for my personal taste when it comes to making music. Excuse me. So stem splitter, let's get back to what we're focused on. All right. My music does not have vocals. I don't really do vocals, so I'm going to leave vocals off. I'm going to use drums, bass, and other, because that's typically where I'm at. And we're going to split the stems. Okay, it's pretty quick too on the computer, so I'm sure it's probably quick on iOS too. I don't really use it. I have tried it. I can't remember if it's fast or slow. So I think Logic, in my opinion, is one of the best when it comes to this. Um, Now we took the BPM and I set it because we knew it from the other one. I think Logic can analyze and give you BPM, but I'm not 100% sure that that's true. So I don't want to say it with 100% fact that it is or it isn't. I'm just saying I think it can. I think you have to leave this one unmuted, but let's see. That's pretty good. Side point. If you stem split, you can take the drums and use these same drums in your music. Now, I'm not saying to sit here and copy this exact drum note or sound, but you could chop these up and use just the drum kick and snares and whatever hats. You also can get the MIDI, and that's where we want to do, or what we want to do, I should say. So we need to be able to bring this back over to a place that allows us to do it, because I'm pretty sure if you right click on this one, there is no convert. Let's see, convert to region, convert to separate by MIDI channel. See, no, that won't do it. Processing, nope. Automation, nope. Tempo, apply tempo, no. Export to add to loop move. Okay, so it doesn't have that feature. So you would have to go back to like a Ableton to get that feature. Now let's say you don't have Ableton, because some people don't. All right, how would you use this? Well, take the stems now, and you could chop and copy the vibe of it, right? So if the kick is hitting on the one, you have to start learning to study these waveforms to see what's going on. So let's study it just for a second together. So here's the one, right? So you can see there's a kick on the one. And if we place this here, let's listen. Hold on, we want to mute. We want to solo just this one. Okay, right there. So you can see this is the kicks, these are the snares, and there's little hats going on, looks like, in there. So you can kind of hear the hat existing within it, but you can model it by placing your kick here, your snare here, your snare here, a kick here and a kick here. You can see that. And then you could always come back and just add the hats according to the rhythm and the taste. So you see how you can just take a waveform, study the wave of the break. It's a break, right? Break beat. Like they just take it out of somebody's drums. And you can do this with any artist's drums too. I'm showing you mine because I don't want to get a copyright strike. And just place your kicks accordingly. Now, will your kicks be perfectly this way? Probably not, because these drums, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, were not placed in. They were played in. So it's going to have some rhythm and a little bit of off. But you can fix that with a lot of humanization stuff and tools, or just slide the drum slightly off a little bit. So you can really get intricate with it and do it. I'm going to mute this phone, or it's going to continue to do that. Okay. So that's how you get your drums. You study it. You take the MIDI is the easiest way to do it. But if you don't have that as an option, then you go in and place the snares where you want them using your own kicks, right? If you don't want to place audio on a track, but you really want to MIDI it in, then you'll have to put the MIDI right where you want it. You can see this snare is played because it's slightly in front of this line here. It's not placed right on the grid. So that's going to be, you're going to see that in most songs, that unless you're doing something maybe like EDM type music, if you're doing soul music or R&B or even hip hop, a lot of the music is not placed directly on the grid. So you're going to have to learn to move stuff around. Now, this is just the drums. How do we figure out what the bass is? Well, this is where knowing the key helps on the bass. So if you know what the key of this song is, then all you have to do is take this song and play to those notes. Now I'm going to flip back and forth. You'll see back to over here. So how do we know the key? Well, let's say we placed it into AI or here, and you see how it tells us what the key, detected key. Now it can say Lydian, but you can look down here and see the minor, the Dorian mode. So knowing the key, you'll find it in here, generally speaking, tells you what notes you can play. So here you can see it's all the white keys but the F, and then it's the F sharp. So you learn this, and then you follow the bass line. That's why you want to learn the scales. The scales help you to know how to play. So what can you play with this? Well, you could play bass lines with it. You can play lead melodies with it. Of course, chords, because the chords are made up of the notes within this scale. Now, occasionally, you see these light gray ones in here. You'll get something that's a tonal sound, right? That sounds tonally like the chord. In other words, it fits, but it's not actually a part of the key. So if you look down here, here's the main chords and this key. And there's no F sharp major 7 down here. There's an F sharp diminished, but tonally with this A sharp as the bass. Anytime you see a slash and then a note, that means they're playing the bass note. Here, I'll hold it down. That means they're playing the bass note. So it's this note, this note, this note as an A sharp. And that's A sharp right there. Okay. So that's what that is. Okay, so now you know how you can play your leads and melodies. So anytime you're going to play a lead or a melody, you're going to stick with these notes within this keys right here. And this is your basics. You can go outside if you know what you're doing to make something tonally fit. But we're going over beginners, basics. All right. All right, back to where we were on there. Okay. So when you have stems, what you have is a blessing, I'm going to call it. Because now you can take, so let's say we listen to this bass. That's a bass slide. Okay, and a lot of times bass, especially in popular music, will be very simple, as well as will not have a lot of variation in the way it's played. You can typically look here and see the pattern. So here's a slide. Now we know that's a slide because of the way it sounds. But if you look at the notes, you can see there's a pattern. So patterns, find patterns in music. Key number 3. I think that's, well, that might be 4 if you count the chord portion separately. Find the pattern within the music. BPM, key, patterns. BPM, key, patterns. If you can find the pattern within the music, you can play anybody's music. It's a pattern, generally a pattern in the music, especially in popular music. Now, jazz can be quite the difference, because jazz, they don't play by the rules all the time, or the typical musical rules that people think about. So that can get challenging, okay? The reason why you want stems is because it gets you closer to what you need to know about that particular piece of music. And because you can manipulate and take pieces from it. So for instance, let's go back to Ableton. So if I want to get the drums from here, now this is not the stem. I can do convert to drums, but what's going to happen is if I do that, this got to convert all of this information and it's going to get congested. And so it may miss a bunch or it may hit them. You never know. So let's see if we can get these stems out of here, out of Logic. So let's see if we can go here. Should be, I don't use Logic as much, so I have to think about it. Should be an export. All tracks is audio files. Let's see, bounce. Nope. Let's do all tracks as audio files. And I'm gonna put them somewhere where I can find them. Yeah, we'll just put them there. That's fine. So we'll export all these. Okay. Minimize that. And I should be able to see them in my hard drive. There they are. Okay, so let's pull the drums. We'll do this real quick. This may be off, it may be on. I don't know what it's gonna do, to be honest. That's weird. Did it just put that on there twice? Nope. And this is set to 86. So let's go in here, take that warp off. I don't know what it did to this tempo, but that's not the right tempo. Let's mute this one. Let's see if it. Okay, so some of it, okay, I get what it's doing. All right. All right, so we're gonna use that. Let's grab the bass. As long as they line up, I'm fine with it. And they don't line up, that's what's weird. Let's see how it sounds together. These stems do not line up very well. I'm not sure why they're doing that, but that's fine. The purpose of this is just to show you how it works. All right, hold on a second. Let me do this one. See what that sounds like. Yeah, they're not lining up for some reason. Particularly these drums. So weird. Turn the up. So the drums aren't lining up. All right, so let's show you the power of being able to get this done the right way. All right, so convert to MIDI. Simple way to get your drums right done. I'm gonna mute this for now. Bass line or any lead that you're learning, you want to convert it to a melody. And you might say, why? Well, it's looking for single notes versus like looking for in a melody versus looking for harmony. Because harmony is going to give you more of a chord, right? Use harmony for chords. So let's say you convert it. We're going to just look at it just so you can see what I was talking about. I know visual is how most people learn. So look at this bass that it's claiming is the bass. And you can see there's nothing happening for the first 4 bars. So this is all gibberish. I don't know what that is, to be honest. All right, so there's the bass. So let's solo this out. Now this is using a Logic instrument, so I mean an Ableton instrument. So 1 second, why? Yeah, it sounds terrible, right? Part of that is the instrument is bad, whatever they're using. So if I take this same MIDI and I place it on an instrument, let's see how it sounds if we place it up here. We'll solo this one out. See. Now this technique works and does not work at the same time. So like a lot of that could be it trying to, when the stem split, it's trying to pick up the bass, but it sounds like it's a drum hit. So it might be doing a little bit of both. But one of the things you can pull from it is some of the ideas are right, if you're doing that. And this is not to say this is the answer to making someone else's music. It's not. You're going to have to spend some time learning what that artist did in that song, what their creative mind was thinking. But I'm telling you, if you know the BPM and the key of the song, that is about 75% of your battle, is the BPM and the key. The rest of it is your patience and learning the song. All right, when it comes to harmonies, again, that would be where you want to do if you're trying to find your chords. I would definitely say use a chord AI type of app or something if you want to learn chords from a certain song. Most of the DAWs have little techniques they can use, but they don't sound great. Like even with using Scalar, as much as I love Scalar for chords, oops, I was trying to open, it's not the answer. Same thing with Logic, it's not going to be the answer for you. You're going to have to learn these techniques that the artist is using. Now for drums, I find it to be the best. If you're not a drummer and you struggle with the rhythm portion, the drums typically are pretty good on most stem splitters. You can kind of get something decent and study it and learn the artist's, placement of drums. The biggest thing that's hardest to teach, in my opinion, is the groove. Grooves are hard to teach because everybody has their kind of natural way of swing. However, in programs like this, like Ableton, you can right click on a song, any song of your choice, and you can extract the groove and then add that groove. Like if I wanted, let's say I made a real basic beat. I did this the other day. I think I used the Me and Those Dreamy Eyes of Mine from Angelo drum groove. D'Angelo. I have a friend named Angelo, but D'Angelo is what I meant to say. So you can do that. You can extract the groove and add it to yours and see if that helps with enhancing what you got. But again, if you're trying to learn from scratch and you don't want to do that, you need to learn to just play the drums in that style. And it takes a lot of practice. That's not something one YouTube video is going to make you learn overnight. You're going to have to practice it. If you play an instrument, you know what I mean. You have to practice that instrument to make it sound good and to get used to the fingering and the holding and the whatever else you got to do. Pause. All right. So let's get back to this. All right. So step 1, get the BPM. Step 2, you need to know the key. The key is going to help you with leads. It's going to help you with bass. It's going to help you enhance those areas. And then chord AI or things of that nature can help you with the chords part of it. And the biggest step of all of this is you got to practice. You really have to. Okay? So if you don't practice, if you don't like practice and you want some overnight success, you're not going to get it. It just doesn't work that way. Music is an art. Music is a language. And if you've ever tried to speak another language, you know you can't just look at it one day and then the next day you automatically know it, unless you're a genius. And those are few and far. So you're going to have to spend some time. All right. So what else can we do to help us improve on this type of stuff? Well, rhythm is going to play a vital role in everything you do. So let's say I'm trying to make a song. I'm going to pick a piano real quick, show you this because it'll be easier. Spitfire Audio is my go-to. Drop it in. Now, let me make sure we got some. The more you play, the more you get better at this. But scalar can kind of get you going. And it's not only a good writing asset, but I've shown these before. If you use the humanize in here and you set it on velocity and timing, it gives you a nice little assistant, right? So these are some chords that it claims are from the song. I'm just going to go in and find something in the same key, which is E minor, and E minor. So if you look here, like these are some chords, you can see E minor, soul jazz. So we'll just pick that. It says Dorian, but we know Dorian A is also E minor scale. Now I'm playing single notes. I have it latched over here. And the key is finding something that sounds like what you want. So if you're trying to play soul music, then you want chords in the 7th chords, 9th chords, 11th, and 13th. Generally put you in that almost into the gospel area. But 11th chords, 13th chords, those are chords that embrace a bunch of different notes. And even when you're playing one note to trigger other notes, you want to play with expression. So for some people, they have a hard time doing this if they don't have a drum beat. So that's what you want to do, is find some drums that you like. So either build a drum beat if you know how, and if you don't, buy yourself or find yourself some rhythm. Let's see if we can get something closer to 86. All right, let's use this one. So we're just going to put a drum riff in here. This is I think 4 bars at 86. We'll loop out just those 4. In fact, just so you don't get confused, we're not looking at that at all. All right. So start playing. This is going to be the next step that you want to focus on. Turn on the metronome, put a drum break in, and start playing to that drum break. Now, let yourself be a little more free, especially with like hip hop, R&B, soul, jazz music. Don't be so stuck to, I gotta play right on the every time. Like sometimes add a ghost chord in there. So I'm gonna call it that for lack of better words. That didn't sound good, but do like. and it'll change the way your music sounds. It'll no longer sound stale and kind of boring and playing like you placed a chord on each set of the one perfectly on. So watch as I record something random, and let's see how the chords look after I finish. So I'm going to record here. All right. So now look at this, how different that is. It's not everything on the one perfectly. You see, I'm just playing. I'm letting myself go free and not focused on trying to be perfect at where I place the chord. I want the chord to be open a little more and less rigid. Right? And so I start building parts. So maybe that's one part. Then if you drag over another copy of that, you can say, all right, I'm going to work on something that's going to be the bridge or maybe the chorus or whatever. And I might pick some different chords. So let's try that. Just something different. Maybe that's the verse. Just build parts that sound good. And in the end, you'll come back and figure out, okay, that should be the verse, this should be the chorus, this should be the bridge, etc. But now your music is not just the same 4-bar riff. Now, if you're trying to make a pop song, most of them will have 4 chords and it'll be the same 4 chords over and over and over. And that's fine if that's your goal. But if you want something that sounds a little different, a little variation of something, start doing something like this where you're building parts. You can call them clips, you can call them loops, whatever you want to call them. Now, I usually don't do 4 bars. I'm just showing you this as an example. I'll usually play for about 8 bars, 16 sometimes, just so that it doesn't sound so stale or stagnant. Another suggestion is and this is on reference to drums, buy drum loops. If you're having problems creating good drum rhythms and you want something that's outside of your typical style, buy from Splice or whoever you get them from. Buy yourself some drum loops and then study those drum loops. As I said before, you can see these are the hats. This is the snare. They're on the 2 and the 4. Most popular music is the same. It's going to be 2 and 4 on the snare, 1 for the kick, and sometimes they'll have a ghost kick. Like this is a ghost kick right here, where it happens off, and then it goes into that snare right there. And then you have your hats. And you can see these hats are not right on the grid. They play very loose. So if you like that sound, play your hats really loose. Like literally just play them with a metronome on, but don't play directly on the metronome. Play a little bit late or a little bit before, whatever you need to do. All right. So this is how most songs are, right? I showed you my song, and how you could come up with ideas or use ideas from it. I do not think you should try to replicate it, but if you're trying to cover a song, your best bet is to learn the chords first and use the rhythm. The beautiful thing about stems is you could split stems, remove the chords from the stems, keep the bass and the drums together or separate, however you want to do them, and then take those and play over the top of them so that you get that style that you want. And then go back and redo the drums and redo the bass so that you are you basically copying it, but you're using your own sounds, you're using your own maybe a little variation in it that's a little bit different. So you can utilize all of that to create music. It's just the way it is. So these are just some little tips for the first session. I did go a little more longer than what I wanted to do, and I am all over the place a little bit. Like I said, I don't do scripts. I'm not good at that. It sounds fake to me when you do that. But you should be able to pick up some techniques in here that can help you in making your music. Doesn't matter which DAW you're doing it in. A lot of this stuff is the same. May set up a little bit different, but a lot of the techniques and stuff we showed can be done on iOS, can be done in Logic, can be done in Ableton, Fruity Loops, whatever you have. All right. Hopefully that helped. If you got questions, let me know. And until the next one, I'm out.